you said this election, it's time to pull out all the stops. It's the hardest, you have to work the hardest ever. What do you mean by that?
Well, you know, we made great progress for pro-life in the elections of 2000, 2002, 2004. Now, in the last two major cycles, in '06 and '08, there were a number of other things going on politically and issues going on that dominated in the minds of the voters their concerns. Now, it's not that the pro-life movement lost strength at the voting booth, because we still have what's called the pro-life increment. In other words, if you look at the numbers of people for whom abortion matters when they vote, you see that we have the advantage over the pro-abortion side by more than a 2-to-1 margin. You know, pro-lifers.
People really realize that.
No, they don't. And, you know, and you may be talking about maybe a third or 25%. It depends how you ask the question of
Yes.
people for whom the abortion issue is at least a deciding factor, if not the deciding factor, in their vote. And among that group, people vote pro-life by more than 2-to-1. And what that means is that that's often enough, the margin of victory needed to sway a race. What happened in '06 and '08, however, is that, you know, various issues arose that people were just so concerned about that it in those elections overshadowed that increment. But that doesn't mean that we can't use that increment again in this coming election, because political winds and waves shift.
And we need to get in there and fight right now. And I know you've got an exciting event coming up, and I don't want to forget to mention that.
Yes.
Pro-life freedom rides, what is that?
You know, 50 years ago, people in the civil rights movement did the freedom rides. Now, the freedom rides came about when 13 people, so this wasn't a gigantic thing, 13 people got on a bus in Washington and said, we're gonna ride through the South in order to test the desegregation decision that had just been issued by the Supreme Court, saying that in the interstate bus terminals and the restaurants there couldn't be segregation. So they got on the bus. They said, "Well, we're gonna hold their feet to the fire, right?" And so the bus encountered some opposition, especially in Alabama, and even violence. But when they were attacked by the people who wanted segregation to continue, students in other cities saw what was happening, because of course it was on the news, and they said, well, we're not going to let this be deterred. So they got on buses. And so the Freedom Ride became Freedom Rides in various other cities and various other routes. This was in 1961. Well, we have on our pastoral team at Priests for Life, Dr. Alveda King, the niece of Martin Luther King Jr. So she and I are always talking about the parallels between the civil rights movement and the pro-life movement.
I think it's great you point that out.
Yes. Well, she says...
It's essential you pointed out.
It is, because this is the civil rights movement of today. And because we're always talking about those parallels, we started talking about the freedom rides and came up with the idea that we should have freedom rides for the unborn. And this is simply an activity that I believe it will bring more visibility to the pro-life movement. It will show people the parallel between the two movements, and it can mobilize people and energize people, because when you think about it, all the different activities of the pro-life movement can be described under the theme of freedom. Even what we're doing now, I mean, programs like this, what are we doing? We're educating people. And whenever you educate people on pro-life, you're freeing them. You're equipping them. You're freeing them from the deception that's out there, you know, some of the false ideas that are out there that are proposed by the other side. And by educating people, we free them. By offering, you know, when the pregnancy centers offer alternatives to abortion, we're freeing people from the feeling of being trapped, like, oh, I have to have an abortion. When we do post-abortion healing, we're freeing them from guilt and shame and despair. When we work for pro-life laws or to elect pro-life candidates, we're working for freedom from unjust laws and policies.
And
so
the other side
it's
that
all,
says we're the ones for choice.
They've hijacked the
that
word
word.
freedom. They're trying to say they're the ones promoting freedom. They're not. They're promoting slavery. They're promoting oppression. We're the ones for freedom. So the freedom rides symbolize that, and is an opportunity to talk about that. And it's an opportunity to bring the pro-life movement together around this one theme that the other side has hijacked. So what we're going to do is we're going to start in July of 2010 with a simple, small ride from Birmingham to Atlanta. That's only a few hours drive.
Yeah.
Simple. We're going to start small, but if we
On a
do
bus?
on a bus, we're going to have a Freedom Ride
I
bus
love it.
with the bus has a beautiful logo on it,
And what does the logo say?
It's Freedom for All, and it
I
has
love
it has
it.
an eagle, and
This is so perfect.
so and Alvita will be there on the bus, and a number of other pro-life
Yeah.
leaders. And but we're inviting people to caravan with us. We're not going to start off like with a whole bunch of different buses. Again, the original Freedom Ride was just one bus, 13
Yeah.
people. We're going to have one bus, 25 people.
Right.
But we're going to allow people to follow the bus in a caravan from Birmingham to Atlanta. So we'll have some events in both cities. We'll have a little rally,
Which
and
are very, okay, so that's meaningful. I think if somebody is just for the first time hearing, anybody would say there was any connection between what happened in 61 and what is happening with abortion. How can you explain it to them? You know, if it's the first time they've ever even thought abortion
Right.
did anything wrong.
Yes, yes. And the way to explain it is this. When Martin Luther King and those working with him fought for the equality of the black citizen, they fought for that equality because they believed in the equality of every human life. They weren't just fighting for the equality of blacks because they thought there was something special about blacks. They fought for their equality because they said, no, they're equal. They're equal. And every human life is equal. So that spirit that was the foundation of that movement is the foundation of our movement, because we're trying to do the same thing. It's a different group of people. Now it's children. It's children in the first 9 months of their existence. It's children in the womb. They're not theoretical people. They're real people. And they're real people who have a real disadvantage under the current system of law because their basic right to life is not recognized. So our movement fights to make their right to life equally recognized and established in law. Why? For the same reason that Martin Luther King fought for the blacks, because everybody's equal. And in the next generation, it may be a different group of people that we have to, right.
It will have to be if
Right.
this, back to fighting evil, since we spoke last, this, I'll call it in Phyllis Schlafly's terms, health control bill passed. What does this mean for the innocent unborn?
Well,
And the elderly. and the-
right.
the terminally ill.
What we have seen is, again, it's a form of hijacking, because certainly we want everybody to have health care coverage. I mean, it's not that we're talking about a black and white evil here. I mean, health care in and of itself is a good thing.
Right.
What has happened is that the pro-abortion industry, just like it hijacked feminism,
Yeah.
and it hijacked the Democratic Party, it has hijacked this process of healthcare reform because they want it to prop up a dying and dysfunctional industry, which is the child-killing industry in America, by pouring money into it in the name of comprehensive health care coverage. Well, comprehensive health care coverage, unless you say otherwise explicitly in the law, that's going to include the abortion procedure, which is the most common procedure, surgical procedure in America, and it's a legal procedure, so obviously it's going to be considered as part of comprehensive health care. So what we were fighting for was we were not fighting against health care or against health care reform. We were fighting against using healthcare reform as an excuse to pour money into the child-killing industry in America. And, unfortunately, the fact that it passed without an explicit
Yes.
prohibition on abortion coverage means that once this whole thing kicks in, unless things change in the meantime, which they can, more money will pour into the abortion industry.
So the guy that yelled, "You lie," was correct.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, he was.
I knew that.